How's it going, everybody? I haven't made a video like this in a while, and I'm kind of stealing Luke Greiser's idea, admittedly, doing this kind of car video, but I haven't had time to really sit down and record this video. But today, when I'm recording this is October 3rd, 2025, which is 10 years to the day since I attended my first WCA competition. And to me, that's a really special milestone. So I wanted to make a video kind of reflecting on what this whole journey has been like and kind of my whole experience and, sort of what it's meant to me overall. So my first introduction to the Cuban community was actually about a year and a half before I attended my first competition. It was, so Nationals 2014 took place at the Liberty Science Center in New Jersey. Now at this point, I knew how to solve the cube for, I want to say, a few months prior to that, but I didn't know anything about competitions or anything like that. So when my dad surprised me that there was this exhibit at the Science Center, this was a few weeks before Nationals actually happened, but we were down in that area visiting family anyway, and he found out about the exhibit. He brought me to it, and sort of seeing that was my first sort of introduction into knowing that these competitions existed. Now at that time, I had really, that kind of gave me the impression that maybe this is only like a championship thing, like there aren't really local communities or anything. So I kind of, obviously I was kind of blown away by the whole exhibit, but then after that, for the next year or so, I kind of dropped the idea of competitions in my mind. I continued to sort of practice. We had an old Rubik's Brand in our house that I solved so many times, and eventually I got to averaging around like a minute. And then sort of fast forward to that Christmas, I got a couple of speed cubes, and that was sort of what motivated me to like really...
In 2 miles, take exit 55B to merge onto I-93 North toward Concord, New Hampshire.
Classic interruption from directions. That was what really motivated me to kind of start taking this super seriously, like sort of going for speed above all else and kind of focus on like learning new methods, kind of optimizing everything. And fast forward to the spring of 2015, they had a competition in Lexington, Massachusetts. Now, at this point, I was kind of nervous about attending one of these things because I just thought, like, I'm not really fast enough yet. Like, I'm just gonna get shown up by everybody. So I kind of backed off from it for a little bit. But my dad convinced me to attend that one just to sort of see what it was like, right? Like, around this point, I had known how to solve the cube for around a year, and this seemed like something that I would sort of continue to pursue long term. So my dad convinced me to go, and I feel like I learned a lot from that experience. Like, it was really eye-opening just seeing that like we had this kind of local community, but not only that, just kind of seeing like the skill of all the competitors at that time. Like, it really motivated me to like push to improve. But at that time, I still didn't really know about like the Cubing USA website, World Cube Association website. Didn't really know about any of that. So I didn't really have like a direct in to the community per se. But then I don't know how my dad found this out, but he ended up finding the Cubing USA website with the list of local competitions. And fast forward through the summer, I had improved a decent amount by that point. There was a competition at Phillips Exeter Academy in October, and I signed up for it. Going into it, I was only really practicing a few events. Like, I only did like really 2x2, 3x3, and Pyraminx and Scube. Those were really the only events I practiced at that point. So that competition offered a few events. I only signed up for 2x2, 3x3, pyraminx, and I signed up for one-handed because I saw there was no cutoffs or anything, so I figured I would just do that one for fun. Fast forward to the competition day. I don't remember much about the competition overall, but one thing that I do remember is literally like right off the bat, out of the gate, I go up to compete in 2x2 and I can't find my scorecard. So I ended up shuffling through a bunch of sorted scorecards, and I got a stern talking to from Tim Reynolds. So that was quite an introduction for sure. But, you know, over the years, I've gotten to know Tim really well, you know, and he's a great guy. He's been an incredible role model, you know, and I feel like I owe a lot to him just because he's pretty much the reason why cubing is as big as it is in my area. But yeah, that was a pretty funny way to sort of start off going to competitions. Another kind of noteworthy thing about that competition was that I almost podiumed in pyraminx, which would have been that would have been pretty cool to podium at my first comp. I ended up getting fourth, but you know, I think that first competition, like, you know, I was incredibly nervous going into it because not only was there the idea of pressure behind official attempts, which I had never experienced, but this was kind of like a socially immersive thing. And at that time, like, you know, my parents always enrolled me in sports growing up, but, you know, I grew up, like, I was a really shy kid growing up. So this was something that I felt was, like, really outside of my comfort zone. And I can't even remember, like, who I mainly hung out with at that competition, but what I do remember is that everybody was just so friendly and so welcoming to me being an outsider at that time. And that was, you know, that really stood out to me as like, well, this is something that I feel motivated to keep going with. And not only that, but if I have the opportunity to sort of grow in this community, like, I want to sort of pay it forward in terms of being welcoming to other newcomers myself. You know, so after that first competition, I kind of gained a lot of confidence overall. Like, I just felt like I belonged, even though really, like, this was, like, I was just getting started with this whole thing at that point, but just everybody being so friendly, like, that just left such a positive impression overall. So I competed 2 more times in 2015. It was the same kind of deal. Like, I only signed up for a few events just because I only practiced a few events, and I thought, well, if I'm not going to be making the cutoff or anything, what's kind of the point in, like, sort of signing up for more events than what I'm kind of capable of. But come 2016, that was when I sort of, like, really started to branch out into more events and, like, kind of becoming more of an all-arounder, so to speak. That was a bit less popular of a term back in the day, I would say, but you know, like, I kind of had this general idea that like I've always been pretty bad at 3x3 relative to everything else, even though it's probably historically my most practiced event. But I thought, like, if I could be decent in everything, then that would, like, allow me to put together a respectable profile, even though I'm kind of lacking in, like, sort of the popular main event. So going into 2016, I competed a bunch more. Competitions were starting to happen more frequently near where I live, you know, and I feel like I owe my parents a lot because they were willing to drive me to these things. Like, you know, we'd spend multiple hours in the car sometimes going to these things, and, you know, they didn't have to do that, but they were almost always willing to, and I think they understood how much this community meant to me, and I really can't thank them enough for that. Like, I'm so grateful that they were able to, like, kind of see how much this community meant to me and were, like, sort of willing to drive me all over the place. So 2016 to 2019, I would say that was kind of like my peak, in the sense that, like, that was when I was practicing the most, right? Like, that was when I learned how to do every event. That was at some point along those few years, I competed in every event for the first time, got results in everything. And, you know, I felt motivated by the fact that like I was seeing relatively consistent improvement. Hadn't really plateaued by that point.
Stay in the second lane from right and go past this exit.
And it was just like, I was as motivated as ever. And I think these were probably the biggest years in terms of like personal growth that I think I had with this community, because this was when I just met so many amazing people. I want to avoid using a ton of names just because I don't want to leave anybody out, but just know that if I've met you at any point along the way during my competing journey, even if we don't talk a lot, like I appreciate your presence in the community. Like similarly to sort of how I thought about this, like, you know, I just felt like sort of one person in this giant, awesome community, but like your presence matters. Like we're all happy to have you there at the end of the day. Like even if we don't talk a lot, like I appreciate your presence in the community. That's what makes it so great at the end of the day. Just that you're able to meet so many different people from so many different backgrounds, like different ways of life, you know, so many unique personalities. And I've met some of my closest friends from this community. Like it is no small understatement to say that if it weren't for this community, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Use the right lane to take exit 55B to merge onto I-93 North toward Concord, New Hampshire.
Yeah, so going into the COVID year, 2020, that was kind of my first instance of my results starting to plateau. Like it became more and more common that I wouldn't get a PR every competition. And at that point, I think I started to lose myself just a little bit in the community. Like my motivation declined a little bit. I wasn't practicing as much. I had also started college by that point, so naturally I was just more busy as it was. But I still was motivated to attend competitions, mainly because, you know, just the people I've met, the friends I've made. Like at a certain point, like your results are bound to plateau, but just the people you meet in the community, like that's what personally keeps me in it, right? Like as I've sort of said over and over again, like there's just so many wonderful people in this community. It's what motivates me to keep going to these things. But yeah, COVID was, you know, I think
the left 4 lanes.
I think many people would agree that COVID was a struggle for a lot of us. Like
in about 6 miles, take exit 35 onto Route 125 toward Andover.
Yeah, COVID was a tough time for a lot of us. Like for me personally, I think that was probably the lowest I've ever been. And like I said, I attended 3 competitions in 2020 before COVID hit and canceled everything for a year and a half. But it was around that time that I wouldn't say fell out of love with cubing by any means. Like, you know, was still motivated, but I think during COVID, I really took a step back from practicing a lot. Like I kind of felt like I had sort of hit my peak. And during COVID, I took a gap year from college. You know, there was just a lot of stuff going on. Most of it was pretty awful, I won't even lie, but like, you know, overall, I took a lot of time to reflect. Like, there were points, you know, obviously as a competitive person, like, you get frustrated with your results naturally, and that was right around where I started to sort of plateau with things. But I think the biggest thing I realized during COVID was that, like, I just missed the community. Like, that was really the point that it made me realize that it's not all about, like, how you do at these things, like, performatively, results-wise. It's just the community is what makes this so special, right? And during COVID, I really wasn't practicing a lot. Kind of kept to myself a bunch. I was working a ton. And I feel like I fell out of touch with the community a bit, but I definitely missed it. But then in 2021, like the second half of the year, like competitions slowly started to creep back up and start happening again. And I just, from that point on, for the next like 2 years, I took every opportunity I could get to go to a competition. Like, and I think the thing that was so great, I mean, great kind of being a relative term, obviously COVID sucked, but I think having a reset like that was kind of nice, because when I came back from COVID, shockingly, even though I hadn't practiced really much at all, I started breaking PRs like crazy. And I think that was like, I kind of split my time in the competing space into two sort of distinct eras. Like there was the time where I was getting PRs all the time because I was like practicing a ton, like seeing rapid improvement. But then after COVID was when like I kind of learned a lot about nerve control. So like even though I was practicing less overall, like I could handle my nerves better, and that allowed me to still get PRs. And I think on top of that, I learned how to practice a little bit smarter. So for the next 2 years, like I was going to competitions like crazy, like more than I had ever gone to before COVID. And, you know, it was really motivating again. Like I could drive myself to these things. Like it was an opportunity to travel, you know, going all over the place, road tripping with friends. I mean, what's better than that at the end of the day? Like we're just...
miles, take exit 35 onto Route 125 toward Andover.
And these directions are killing me, man. Worst possible time. But yeah, I mean, like, just... there was almost kind of like another dimension added to it, where it's like, not only is there the competition, but I'm just like, we're just hanging out with friends at the end of the day, just going places, traveling places, you know, and that kind of brought me back sort of stronger than ever. Then in August 2022, that was what I would consider kind of a significant milestone in my cubing career. So this all kind of goes back to the gap year I took during COVID. Because I took that gap year, I made enough money to where I didn't have to work the following summer. And because of that, I was able to just focus on taking classes, wasn't doing anything else. Actually, that's not true. I was playing a bunch of Ultimate Frisbee, but basically all I did that summer was just take classes.
Stay in the second lane from right and go past this exit.
All I did was take classes, play Ultimate Frisbee, and go to comps. And one sort of goal I had for that summer was I want to organize one of these
Use the right
things.
lane to take exit 35 onto Route 125 toward Andover.
Like this was finally my opportunity where like I had some time in my schedule, and sort of what I had talked about before was like I wanted an opportunity to give back. This was my chance to do that. So I organized my first competition in August of 2022, and that was like, I was freaking out during the whole process because I just wanted it to go so well. Like, there are very few things I've cared about more than having that competition go as well as possible. And luckily, it went so well. You know, I really felt like so fulfilled from that experience. You know, and that kind of added another dimension on top of like continuing to attend competitions, hanging out with friends, like getting to organize one of these things. That was like a really cool experience for me. And then
in about 6.5 miles, take a slight left turn onto Turnpike Street.
And then sort of building off of that, I had that competition. I attended another one. And at that competition, Tim said he wanted to have a talk with me. And, you know, at that point I was like, well, you know, obviously Tim helped me to organize that competition. Like, he was the main delegate. He, like, was sort of the reason I was able to make it happen. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, what do you want to talk about? Like, oh boy, this is crazy. And to my surprise, he offered the opportunity for me to become a delegate. And that was just like, I was, you know, on top of the world at that point. Like, not only getting to facilitate making these competitions happen, but sort of being able to help others who have sort of had the same experience where, like, you know, they've gotten so much out of this community, they wanted to give back. Being able to not only have more control over facilitating competitions myself, but helping others sort of get to fulfill that goal of theirs. I mean, that was really peak for me. So second half of 2022 into 2023, you know, I was delegating like crazy. And a crazy sort of aside to this whole delegating aspect of competitions was the first competition I delegated. That was actually when Elijah got the square one world record, and I was the one who scrambled the cube. And man, I was just freaking out when Tim was checking the scramble, because I was like, if I somehow mis-scrambled that, I mean, there's no coming back from that, right? But luckily it all worked out. Scrambled it correctly. Elijah got his world record, and that was a really cool, like, sort of introduction in delegating. Ever since then, I think I've delegated almost 80 competitions. You know, and through this whole process, I've finished college at this point. I'm now working full time as an engineer. You know, really passionate about what I'm doing. But I always try to find time to still go to these competitions, even though nowadays, like, I'm more busy with other stuff in my life. Like, I'm so grateful that I still have the opportunity to not only put these things on, but just, like, be able to give back to my local community overall. I want to give a special shout out to the New England Cuban community and also the Mid-Atlantic Cuban community. I've been to countless competitions in both regions, and I've known some amazing people, and I've gotten to meet some amazing people over the last 10 years. And you know, I'll say it again, I would not be who I am if I didn't meet all of these wonderful people and have the experiences and shared memories that I had with them. This video ended up being a lot longer than I meant for it to be. But when I think back on my whole journey through this space, like, you know, there were times where I've gotten frustrated with my results. I've gotten burned out going to too many competitions. But I've learned that it's fine to feel that way. Like, everything's part of the process. Like, it's totally fine to take breaks and come back to it. But, you know, we're 10 years in now, and I really don't ever see myself leaving this community completely. Like, this community honestly has given me everything, and anything I can do to improve it or even make it just a little bit better, that's kind of my goal these days. I don't really know how many people watch me on YouTube anymore. I know I'm kind of out of the loop when it comes to, like, cubing, I guess. Like, I know I uploaded a bunch, like, way back in the day, like, kind of solving related content. But nowadays I just I'll film solves and comp occasionally. Not always, but sometimes I'll upload them occasionally, because why not? But for those of you who are still watching, I appreciate you. If you watched all the way through this video, I mean, you're a real one. You're a real one for that. I just wanted to put this out there. Just, I feel like 10 years in a community is like a really cool and special milestone to achieve. And I feel like personally, I've put my heart and soul into this community, and I just, I know everything's not going to be perfect every day. Like, there are some times where, like, I need to take a step back, or, something will go down that, like, I don't necessarily agree with or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, my love for this community is undying. I'm just grateful, man. Like, it's hard to believe the time's honestly flown by this quickly, but yeah, I'm taking a little bit of time away from competing right now, just because, like I said, I'm kind of focused on other things in my life. But I really don't see a scenario where I quit being a part of this community completely. We're 10 years in, but I'm really looking forward to what the future has in store, both personally for myself in this community and just for the community in general. I think seeing the amount of growth that we've had in the last 10 years has really been incredible. It's been, like, truly impressive and incredible to just see, like, how many dedicated individuals we have continuing to grow this community. And, I'm really looking forward to being a small part of that whole process. But yeah, if you watched through this whole video, you're a real one for that. 10 years down, here's to many more memories in the future. I hope all of you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time.